Hello class, my name is Riley Van Reenen, and my presentation is on alcohol use disorder and how this can influence one's biology. This will be educational, yet it will become morbid at times, so I am respectfully encouraging viewers to maybe take this with a grain of salt. I will be analyzing 3 key fundamental questions, including how do genetics play a role in this disorder, how does heritability relate to it, and lastly, how would the autonomic nervous system specifically be affected when this individual withdraws from consumption, theoretically speaking. In order to answer these, we must first conceptualize what alcohol use disorder is. In the biopsychology textbook, Martin Shapiro addressed this, and he said it is the clinical diagnosis of an individual who consumes alcohol due to habituation. This can go to the extent of causing bodily harm, intentionally or unintentionally. With our first question about genetics regarding alcoholism, 2 research articles that can assist with this connection include Edinburgh and Farud, and they aim to understand the genetic basis of alcoholism by measuring patterns of alcohol-related traits and how they correlate with genetic relationships. They found that 2 genes that are involved with this alcohol metabolism specifically are ADH1B and ALDH2. These have the strongest known effects on the risk of alcoholism. Connecting back to class, a gene is a unit of heredity that is passed to offspring, and gene expression requires the order of the helicase unzipping of DNA that exposes nucleotide pairs, transcription, translation, and then the protein production that creates the person. Gustafson and Bell analyzed this connection as well. They found that genetic influences are stronger earlier in adulthood and in men, but diminished with age and with greater educational success. The reason as to why I briefly touched on the last article is because Gustafson and Bell focused more on heritability, which helps us analyze our second question. As discussed in class, heritability is often measured to estimate the quantity of the variations within a trait or phenotype. Back to the research, Gustafson and Bell collected data on 64,140 twins, with ages ranging from 40 to 102 from 14 international twin cohorts. They measured alcohol intake weekly on a standardized scale of grams. Other than the genetic-specific result that I mentioned earlier, they also found women showed a heritability of 34% and men with a heritability of 42%. Last but certainly not least will be how one's autonomic nervous system is influenced during withdrawal within an alcohol-dependent individual. If you look at the bottom right corner, Shapiro mentioned this briefly, and it is defined as developed symptoms of a person with alcohol use disorder and will be experienced when they stop consumption. And it is possible for this to be dangerous or even life-threatening. As discussed in class, that the autonomic nervous system is a part of the peripheral nervous system, and it is known that this is not so easily controlled by the individual's consciousness. Chen and Chang went about this connection and added in individuals with anxiety and/or depression to measure their heart rate variability. The groups being tested included 24 pure alcohol-dependent participants, 24 participants with alcohol dependence and anxiety or depression, 120 with major depressive disorder, 24 with anxiety disorders, and 120 matched healthy controls. HRV was measured by an electrode placed on each wrist, and it is considered that dependence of alcohol and withdrawal have a strong association with excessively increased cardiac risk. Shapiro talked about how HRV is considered to be affected by both the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Back to the research, Chen and Chang found that individuals with alcohol dependency and anxiety showed the worst autonomic impairment. Therefore, this pattern shows a higher autonomic and cardiovascular risk. Since alcohol is a depressant, it should be mentioned that having alcohol use disorder can lead to anxiety and depression, and the events can also flip. All in all, it is important to navigate and bring awareness to the biological aspects and repercussions for when an individual develops alcohol use disorder. Thank you so much.